Hi guys, for today's video I wanted to focus on the map method. If you are a beginner in JavaScript, you should know that a map method is simply something that you can use to iterate through an array and do something with every item. For example, as you can see on the screen, we have a variable called numbers and we have a few numbers. So that's a collection of elements, and every time that you want to do something specific on every number, you will need to use the map method. You could also do it with a for loop, but the map method is just faster and it's shorter in terms of code. So if you want to multiply by 2, by 3, or even put a string or whatever you want to do, you use the map method and it's going to happen, it's going to execute on every single item. Now, this is from a perspective, but now if you're a more advanced developer, you will know that for functional programming, for pure functions, it's actually very important the understanding of the map method, because it will allow you to get the pure functions. So if you are using libraries later on, such as React and with Redux or any other libraries, you will understand that mutating the state can be an issue, and therefore map method can be very useful. And I'll let you know a little bit more of that later in the video. But let's focus on how the map method works. So already having the array of numbers, what you will want to do is to put the map in front, and then you will apply a function. Let me show you. Let's create a new variable called result. And in the result variable, we're going to use that array that we have up here, and we're going to apply the map method. So as it is a method, we're going to put the parentheses, and the idea is that you're going to execute a function inside of it. And to simplify things, we are going to use the exit syntax, which means that we are going to use an arrow function, such as this. We're going to insert a parameter called item. It could be any name that you want to. It could be number, but for this case, let's call it an item. And that's just simply every item of the array. It could be 1, 2, because it's going to iterate. And here we're going to use the fat arrow, and we are going to be using that item multiplied by 2 in this case. So if we just use a console.log and we print that result variable, we will notice right here that we have a new collection of items multiplied by 2. And now, let me explain to you something very important. The reason why I'm using a variable is because otherwise the map method would not work. It's necessary, it's obligatory that the result that the map method is returning is saved, is stored in a new variable. This is happening because the idea of the map method is that it should not modify, it should not mutate the original array. So if we have this, we want it to be preserved. We don't want to touch it. What we want is to have something else, something new created, like in this case the result variable. So the map method is going to be applied on the numbers, but this result, whatever the map method is returning, we're going to save it in the result, and we can later on use it. If you're a beginner, what you should understand is that the map method is very useful because the code is very short. You could do it with a for loop or a while loop or any other loop, but it's just so much more code. And also if a developer looks at your code right now, it's totally understandable, so it's easy to communicate. And if you are a more advanced developer, as I said previously, this concept is very important because you are not modifying the original array, and therefore you can work with a functional programming with pure functions. Pure functions is simply that you are not modifying the original array or the original object you are just like cloning it, making a copy of it. So right now it may seem irrelevant, but later on as you are learning, you will find out that it's actually very important not to mutate, to change an original array or object or whatever it can be. And this would be it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I would appreciate it if you can subscribe.